What up, guys? Jason Geiman here, pressurewashhelp.com, king of pressure washing. And tonight I have on a special guest that asked me, he said he's like got a bunch of questions to ask. And I had told him that, well, then why don't you come on my live so you can get your answers? And so tonight we're going to kind of talk about some of the things you do when you first start out, some of the struggles you have, some of the concerns you have, things that you just need answered. And so Drew tonight is going to be the one kind of asking questions. Obviously, I'm going to be asking him questions too. But he is somebody that has been a person of hustle from the very beginning. You can see here 9 years ago, he had his mower on a bicycle trying to make money 9 years ago as an entrepreneur spirit. And that is awesome. That is one thing that I love when young people want to start, grow, and change their business, change their lifestyle of what they can do. And I 100% believe it don't matter how old you are. In fact, I believe if you can start out when you're young like Drew at 21 years old, that you will set yourself up for the lifetime of your, you will be able to go way further than anybody else out there. And that is what awesome because if I knew what I knew now when I was 21, would have made a world of difference. So by that saying that, this is something that I really like doing. So Drew, tell me just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. My name is Drew. I'm the business owner of One and Done. We're located in Seattle. Some of the services we offer are pressure washing, gutter cleaning, roof cleaning. We're looking to get into some soft washing um, to be able to do some bigger jobs, some maybe more high ticket jobs, and maybe be able to clean surfaces a little bit better than we have been with just downstreaming, and then that kind of stuff. We've been in business for about 2 years. The first year we started out with just a 2.4 GPM, 3,500 PSI dewalt pressure washer with a little surface cleaner. It worked great. It worked really good. Made a lot of customers happy. Then after about a year, we upgraded to a six gallon per minute, 4,000 psi with a hot water. So the time was cut in about half, I would say. The jobs I were doing were taking me no time at all. But the problem that I was having was I was also doing tons of surface area and charging no money because I could do such a big area in not a lot of time. So I learned that pretty quickly. I know what to charge, especially with the diesel for the hot water. That stuff adds up. Um,
Yep,
the
it costs
ethanol
money to
free,
actually make money, correct?
absolutely, 100%.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what made you start? What made you want to start a pressure washing business? Let's go back to obviously you had a mower business way back when, but what made you want to start a pressure washing business?
So what actually what actually happened was I moved out whenever I was 18 and was working for a burger truck and wasn't making very much money, and it wasn't actually what I wanted to do. My dad always knew that I liked to do the landscaping kind of stuff, pressure washing, pretty much anything outdoor, hands on, hard work to get paid. Um,
So, when you was 19, you were just like, "Hey, I want to start a pressure washing business to make money."
Well, no. So what actually happened was my dad was working for this company, and he was getting in a bunch of these jobs that were pressure washing, gutter cleaning jobs, and they were jobs that he just didn't want to do. And he knew that I was tired of what I was doing. So he told me to get a couple of ladders, and that's what I did, and I started taking on a bunch of gutter cleaning jobs.
Awesome. So, um, what, what is your goal for 2021? Because I'm a big believer in setting your goals, even if it's a high goal of, it's a BHAG goal, a big hairy audacious goal. What is your goal for 2021?
I think my main goal is 150.
So 150,000 for 2021, and that's not too hard to do out in Seattle, because Seattle is a place that has lots of this right here, and that is a good thing about that. Now, the cost of living out there is obviously higher, also because of it is Seattle. So that is the good thing about that. So what are some of the questions that you have for me that you just want help to get to the next level, or help further some questions that you might have for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So for soft washing, um, is 5.5 gallon per minute over 7 gallon per minute? Is that a huge difference?
And you mean as a soft wash system, or doing downstreaming on
As,
your system now?
as in like a soft wash system, because a lot of the homes out here are 3 stories. So I just want to make sure that I'm able to reach all the way up to the peak.
And what kind of siding is on it? Is it mostly vinyl, mostly stucco?
It's a lot of vinyl, but one of the main reasons why I've been wanting to get into this is because I've been doing a couple stuccos and there's just no way to get it clean with
Okay,
downstreaming.
so what I would suggest with is, I would still suggest you to do it with downstreaming, and here's why. You'll have to do it with a different type, but you won't be able to just use your regular old downstreamer that you can buy for $15. You're going to have to get one. It's called a super sucker, or the power wash store has them, and they have the stainless steel check valves on them, and they will allow you to draw more. And when you do that, because you already have a 6 gallon minute pressure washer, correct? So
Absolutely.
when you do that, soft washing, whether you go with a 5 volt or a 5 gallon or a 7 gallon, there really isn't that much of a wow difference of getting it up higher. Because some of the problems we have is if we use the 7 gallon or the five, and we're only using half-inch hose, if we don't bump up in our hose, we're not going to get much flow difference at all in the end. And I know some other people have been on here, Greg Townsend, he's like, I'll never clean with a 5 volt because it takes you forever. And so that is some things that I would really consider. Honestly, with what you have, I would probably go with that super sucker. Go with straight bleach if you're doing it with the stucco, and go from there. If you're on vinyl, then obviously you can cut down a little bit and be fine with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And then
So
so for roofs,
then for roofs, you will need a soft wash system. So at that point, like I say, the five versus seven, a lot of people go with the five because the 7 gallon minutes has a lot of issues with them, and they'll pop the breakers faster. They won't run as long as the actual fives. I don't know what, they're the exact same motor and everything, but the fives seem to last a lot longer than the seven. Like if you look at like Cody from down there at shoot, I can't think of his soft wash down there. He uses the five, and the reason why is the 5 volts or the 5 gallon minutes seem to do better than the 7 gallon do.
that's really good to know. Yeah. So
So
there's not much of a difference except the yeah.
And so what Jason from Gulf Coast said, the Super Sucker changed my life. And the reason why he's saying that is he's in Florida and they have all stucco down there. I know Bobby Walker's went to the Super Sucker because it's just a lot easier. Because when you're pressure washer, it's all about the flow. It's not about the high pressure. It's not about any of that kind of stuff. It's all about the high flow at the end of the day. So we can apply it, we can turn the soap off, and we can rinse a lot faster than we can with a soft wash system. But on the other hand, if we're talking about roofs, then we got to use a 50-50 mix with the 12 volt at that point.
Okay. Do you know if the 50-50 mix is real effective for moss?
Yeah, it'll kill it all. It'll turn it white. Now, in your case, because you are up in the northwest,
Uh,
you get carpet moss, and sometimes where it is gets so thick, you do have to broom some of that carpet off to get that first layer off, and then you'll do it on top of there. Just because you're dealing with really thick moss versus we're
Yeah,
just dealing with surface moss pretty much.
true. And so for a lot of the roof cleaning, I know that there's a is there a warranty that you carry or that you give your
So
customers?
we would give 3 months warranty for the black streaks and returning of black streaks. The biggest thing I would be careful with you up there in the Northeast is I don't know how fast that moss is going to grow back. Just because you're dealing with so much wet area, you're dealing with wet, and if they got trees and stuff like that. So I would probably do a year one, but I don't know if I would go much more than that because if the moss grows that fast up there, you could be getting back in the moss within that first year.
True, true.
So what have you done for pricing wise? How have you tried to price wise?
Um, well, now that I've been doing it for a good amount of time, I can just take a look at it and have a pretty good idea of how long it'll take me. And then I'll know um, about an hourly rate of how much I want to make. Usually it comes out to, I try to make no less than 75 an hour, but try to push 100, 125 an hour.
All right, so
Um,
let's try to bump that up because just in pure numbers, we will have a hard time getting to $150,000 with that mentality. With that mentality of 75 to $100, it's going to be really hard to be able to get to our 150, just because the numbers don't work at that point. Does that make sense?
sure.
We got to hit those 1,500, 1,200 to $1,500 days, and if we're shooting for $100 an hour, we're only getting $800 a day, and at that point, we won't get to our where we need to be at. So, what I would suggest, and I know it's not easy, and especially when you think that you're young, that can hurt you, but don't think of it that way. Think positive. Think, be confident in yourself, and be know what you know. What you know, you know more than what they know, and make sure that they understand that. Don't let somebody try to break you down, and you're just a young kid and you shouldn't be making that much because that's bullcrap. It don't matter how old you are. You can make higher prices even out there. I know you can. I know other companies that are doing very well out there. So, my minimum for it would be, especially for house washing, 250. If you're scared to go that high at first, at least be $200 for the minimum for a house wash, and maybe even more than that. And I'm just talking a little bitty house. I'm not even talking, a bigger house. And so, reason why I'm saying that is when we got to know our numbers to be able to get to where we need to be at, it's going to be hard getting there at that 80 to $100. So that is something that I would definitely get into it. And the things that you can do to help you get better at selling those higher price jobs is to really get a good transcript of talking down. And when you do that, do it over and over and over. Do it to your friends, do it to your mom and dad, do it to the camera, and just let that flow through. So then that way, when they come, it will help you be more confident. It will help you be more, and I'm not saying cocky, but you will be more confident to be able to sell what you're wanting to do. You know, Jason knows $300 per hour is possible. That's what people are saying, $300 an hour, and that's what if I was you, I would start shooting for $300 an hour, because you know what? If you get $200 an hour, well, guess what? I'm good with $200 an hour at the end of the day, right? So
Right.
these are some things that I would definitely think about doing to be able to grow your business and to get to that next level. Because this is what I don't want you to do, Drew. I don't want you to start this business and not be very successful, and you do $50,000 this year because you worked your tail off. Because here's the deal: this is we talked a little bit about this in the beginning of how much money you want to spend in marketing. If you want to spend 10% of marketing and you're only making $80 to $100, that means you're only putting $8 to $10 to try to be able to get a job. And when we're doing that, that's going to be tough to do. If we do $300 an hour, that gives us $30 an hour to be able to put toward marketing, be able to put toward AdWords, be able to put toward Facebook ads, be able to put toward signs, stuff like that. And that will help you grow your business at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that is what I really want you to try to start shooting for. And I know it's not easy, and I know it's scary, and it's hard. But here's what I want to let you know: once you start getting leads in, and you're able to start buying your leads and stuff, and we know we can get at that 50. We're not going to close every job at $300 an hour. I guarantee you that we will not close every job at $300 an hour. But I will about guarantee if we can close 50% of those jobs at $300 an hour, you'll make more money, do less work, and you'll get to your $150,000 in your first year, or this year in 2020. Because this isn't really your first year. You've done figured out the pressure washing, and you're kind of learning the soft washing side still, but you're figuring that out. But to get to the next level, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, and I keep thinking I need to add more equipment, but I think I just need to raise my prices because with upgrading to, the 6 gallon per minute and then just getting a super sucker, I think I should be able to knock out um quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
Um
So if you get the super sucker, at that point you can do everything except roof cleaning. Do you have a
yeah.
soft wash, a 12-volt system at all, or no?
No, no.
So if we can do that right there, we can do everything except roof cleaning. We can even do gutter cleaning and spraying out the roofs, and we do that by packages, right? The way we get higher prices is we do packages. So we could do everything you're doing right now except roof cleaning. Now, the only good thing about a roof clean is obviously that gets us a higher price ticket. That is one thing that roof cleaning will do. And so even up there, you're dealing with a lot of moss. So, you're going to have to charge some to be able to get up there and make that happen. It isn't the same of me here because I can spray a roof and be in and out in about 2 hours, and I'm charging 5, 6, 7, 800 bucks, $1,000, and it's taking me less than. I mean, I can do it probably in an hour if I wanted to, but sometimes I feel bad and I just want to make sure I don't kill nothing, so I got to really wet everything down. So my watering is taking me a little bit longer at the end of the day. And again, don't get into the fangle dangle of wanting to buy equipment. A lot of people fall into this trap. They want to keep buying equipment because they think they need this and they think they need that. And this person says they need this and this person says they need that. And when we fall in this trap of thinking we need all this equipment. What happens is we're not successful at the end of the day, because what we're not doing when we're buying equipment is we're not putting money into the marketing side, and that is what's going to grow our business. Because if we can't get business, it don't matter what kind of equipment we got. It don't matter, And this is what I would do. Honestly, this is what I would do if I was you. If I'm trying to sell a roof, I'd be $1,000 right now because you ain't got the equipment. And you know what? If somebody buys it, they just bought all your equipment for you to buy that $1,000. You can buy a pump, 5/8 hose, and you're ready to rock and roll with it. And guess what? You didn't pay a thing because they just paid $1,000 roof clean, so you just made money off of it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
And that's how I would handle that right now. And you know what else that'll make that happen? When you start selling $1,000 roof cleans, it'll build your confidence way up. So then you're like, these people paid $1,000. If I can find one person buy $1,000, I can find 2 or 3 people to pay me $1,000.
Right. So how do you sell those? Do you go out, take a look at the job, and base it off of square footage? Do you
So
let?
I never did anything in person. Not to say you can't do anything in person. I did everything over the phone. So I did it off square footage of the house. So if the house was 1,500 square foot, I was in this price range. If the house was 3,000 square feet, and this is living square feet. So, just because a house is 1,500 or 3,000 square feet, well, if it's a two-story house, the living size is still only 1,500. They don't know that I'm charging more for that, but that's how I would bid that.
Sure.
Are you going out right now to do this, or are you bidding them in person?
I'm bidding them in person, and it's because the marketing that I'm using right now is the customers reaching out to like 5 different guys at once, and so I like to go out there and give the customer the in-person experience. Um, and a lot of the time, I think that's why I'm coming down on my prices is because I'm fighting with other guys trying
Now,
to
do
just.
you really think that they're getting 5 extra bids, or is that what they're telling you?
Well, so on the actual marketing, through Thumbtack, it shows you that they are reaching out to 4 or 5 different pros, and then how many pros are actually responding.
And how many do you think of those pros are actually giving a bid?
Um, just a couple,
So
if
they're
that.
just because it says that they're reaching out to 5 doesn't mean that 5's giving a bid. Does that make sense?
True.
So this is one thing I would probably really stress and really try to get you to find another lead source other than just not home advisor. Um, shoot,
Yeah.
Thumbtack. I'm not saying the Thumbtack isn't bad. I'm just saying we need to find sources that we are the number one lead gen, because you know where Thumbtack gets their leads from.
Uh, Commercials and stuff.
Nah, they get them from Google Ads. They're buying Google Ads and then they sell them out. That's how that works. So that's what they do. Because you know how I know that? Because I run Google Ads and you can see who your competitors are. And Home Advisor and Thumbtack are both competitors when I'm running my ads. So
No, I bet.
they're buying a lead at $3-4 and selling it for 5 people with $10-20 a piece. So that's how they're
Wow.
making their money.
Wow.
All right. So never put your marketing in one place. Yes, that's good. That's true too. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. All right. So marketing is probably one of the things that is the hardest things. So one thing that I went through a lot of your stuff. I went through your website. I went through your Google My Business. I see you got your pictures up. The biggest thing I would really push this year is, what is your goal for how many 5-star reviews you want to get this year?
150.
So you want 150 5-star reviews, correct?
At least.
And how are we going to get these 5-star reviews?
Every single day, whenever I go out to the customer's house, I'm gonna ask them, what exactly they need done, how I can make them happy. And whenever I'm all done, I'm gonna send them over my link to my Google My Business, and I'm gonna cross my fingers.
So we asked them one time. Do you think we might want to ask them more than one time to try to get that 5-star review?
Yes. Yes.
So in our spiel in the very beginning, we're not going to say hope we're going to get a 5-star review. We want to tell them that we want to make sure that we do such great work after we're done that you want to give us a 5-star review. That's in the bidding process. Then when we get to the house, we're going to do the same thing. Knock on the door. Hey, Miss Jones, I'm here to do the ABC service. And, we're going to start here. We're going to use your water here. We're going to hook up to it. We're going to clean the house of areas that you want. Is there any areas in particular that you want more than the other? Yeah, this spot here. All right, Miss Jones, thank you. When we get done, I want you to come around, because we're making this customer feel comfortable. We're making that customer want to give us a 5-star review. So that way you can go through that and try to really push that after I'm done, I want you to be so happy and so tickled about this house wash we do that you want to give me a 5-star review. And then we're going to do it again at the end of it. And then we're going to send them the link. We're going to email them the link. We're going to do all of that stuff to make sure that we can get that review. Does that make sense?
Yep, I like it. I like it. I'm going to implement that.
All right, what's your next question?
So if you're going out to just do, say, 1 or 2 roof cleanings, how do you determine how much of a batch to make? Do you just buy the big 50-gallon SH already in the gallons and the drums?
All right, so the one thing I would suggest to do is buy a mixing valve, not just the roof pump, but a mixing valve. Because if we buy the mixing valve with the or build it, and what that can help us do is we can mix it. Otherwise, we are going to have to mix before we go, and so we can only carry 100 gallons of mix. And if we was going to do 2 roofs, you would probably use quite a bit of that 100 gallons. Otherwise, I would do the 50 gallons. Especially if you only got a 55 gallon drum. If we had a mixing valve, then that would give us 100 gallons of mixed stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So those are some things that I would just kind of look through and see what I want to do with that. But the biggest thing is honestly, I wouldn't probably schedule 2 roofs in the same day until I got pretty good at them. So that way I can, figure out what I need to do.
True. Yeah,
and then make sure that I got enough bleach to keep us going.
So if you're doing a roof by yourself, do you just make sure to obviously wet the ground down all the way around? How do you make sure that the ground's staying wet whenever you're up on the roof for, let's say, an hour?
Well, it shouldn't take you an hour to be up on the roof. So what I do is I always rinse everything really good before I go up, obviously. And then if I climb up my ladder, I'm going to spray that part of the roof. And when I come back down to move my ladder, I'm going to take my hose and rinse everywhere that I may have sprayed off of or anywhere that could be in that area. So that way I know that it does and that I keep it wet. And then once I get done with the whole roof, I'm going to come back and I'm going to rinse the whole thing off again.
True. Same thing for like driveways.
Driveways, you got a surface cleaner?
Yeah.
So, I would pre-soak my surface cleaner and then I would obviously put a house wash mix down and then I'm going to just surface clean it and then just rinse it off. And then I'll leave a house wash mix on it at the end of it.
So if you're washing a driveway with like not a where there's nowhere for the water to drain.
Then you mean like a hole where the water sits in there and stuff? Then yeah. You can use like a I can't think what it's called now. It's you put the pressure washer wand in it and it'll actually suck super sucker. And so you can use something like that to suck that water out and then put it into landscaping.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And I think that thing costs like $70-$80, maybe $100, I think. So
cool.
But yeah. All right. What other questions you got?
How did you land your first commercial job?
So how I learned my first commercial job is I went and I walked around and sledge sucker is what it's called. I walked around and we got a couple different apartment complexes and her name was Robin and she gave us some work and she gave us work every year all the way through. So for what I would tell you, the thing that would be is obviously to make sure that we are doing boots on the ground if you want to do that. The thing that where you're young and you can figure things out, I would tell you to get on like LinkedIn, make sure you're doing your LinkedIn, make sure you're connecting to property managers and all of that kind of stuff. Make sure that you are you're networking with people, you're commenting on their stuff on LinkedIn, you're commenting, you're giving advice, all of those things. So then that way it will help you start ranking, and it'll help you start getting further along in business to get to those higher end jobs. And don't be afraid of the commercial work. Even if you get a big job, don't be like, well, I could never do that. Don't think of it that way. Think of it of, how do I eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I I was scared to death when I did my first big commercial job. I mean, I did one on it was a
It was
8-story
eight
building.
stories.
I had to rent a 135-foot lift. I don't like heights, and I did it all. I bid it for 6 days. It only took me 4 days to get it done. So
Oh,
these are some things that you got to do so that way you can keep growing your business. All right. What's your next question?
Um, so when you're just using SH in general, is there any way that you protect yourself? Your clothing and all that stuff?
Well, the biggest thing is to wear 100% polyester, so that way it won't bleach out your clothing. It is good to wear, eye protection, hand protection, stuff like that. Obviously, especially if you're dealing with stronger mix, if it gets on you, make sure you get it off of you. Don't take the high pressure wand to get it off of you. That can be very dangerous. I've seen people peel skin back by doing that. And so these are some things that you can do to help protect you. But the biggest thing is like your shirts, make sure they're 100% polyester. The Nike, what are they called? Fit, dry fit, or they won't bleach out. Um, and then like there's some shorts on Amazon that I seen that work pretty good too, that won't bleach out the shorts.
Okay. Yep, that's good to know.
And
How
then
did you
shoe
get your
wear,
first?
footwear. You can wear the boots that a lot of these people. I always wore a nice pair of work boots, is what I always wore for my shoes. There was a pair of work boots that I could get on roofs that they stuck to roofs pretty good. So I always bought that same pair over and over, and that way I didn't have to go putting cougar paws on and that kind of stuff. Because that's the thing, even where you live at, is there's not a lot of steep roofs out there. I mean, there's some, but most of your roofs out there aren't real steep because you don't get a lot of snow out there. So
Yeah. You said those were the boots that you were talking about. You wore those on the roof and pressure washing?
I did. They were just a regular old work boot. So yeah. And then that's something else that somebody here put, is to make sure you carry all your MSDS sheets, or your SDS sheets, they're called now, safety data sheets. And that is something that if you ever get pulled over or something like that, you want to make sure you're carrying those sheets, because then that way, if you get in a wreck or something like that, and these are sheets that you got to carry any chemical that you carry on that truck. So gasoline, any surfactant, any of that stuff, you're supposed to carry it. And you can just print them off from the manufacturer. Like, if you're using your bleach from whoever, go on their website and you can do that and find it that way. So this guy here CJ asked, what would you recommend for putting on signs to get the most business? I would recommend putting pressure washing on it, or house washing. I think pressure washing does a little bit better than house washing. And then the other question I think you might have had too is, where do I put these signs, or where do we want to put these signs? You know, if you're allowed to and you don't get fined for it, I put it at any intersection that has a lot of traffic, or intersections by schools, that the area I want to be in, or churches, or stuff like that. If you're not allowed to put them in public spots and you're going to get fined for it, then I put them in the customer's yard, and I'm going to ask them if I can do that, and all of that kind of thing. So those are some things that I'm going to do to keep that going.
Have you ever actually been fined?
I have never been fined. I know people that have been fined, but I have never been fined.
But usually they'll call you and say, "Hey, this can't be here."
Yeah, so DJ, my buddy, in this area, he put one up, in, it's called Covington, and they told him that the next one he put in Covington, they were going to fine him. So he quit putting them in Covington. So he put them all the way around that city, but not actually put them up in that city. And this guy and William put, I have the best luck with pressure washing and a phone number for signs. And again, this is something that is simple. We don't want all these different services. I looked at a sign the other day and they had all these services they do, and they're like, well, these are only for the yard. I don't care. You're not going to be able to see that. And so that's something that you want to keep it big phone number, big number or big thing. When code enforcement calls, take them serious. Yeah. So if they code enforcement calls and tell you to take them down, you start trying to take them down, and that way you don't have to do it. Gutter cleaning contractors. My fine was $50 for a sign. I just paid it and kept putting them out. So, and that's Mr. Donovan that did over $1 million last year. So, what you got? Any other questions?
How did you get your first employee?
Um, was a friend of mine. He needed work. That was one. The next one, a couple other ones were friends, and then I finally hired somebody, and I think I got him off Craigslist or Facebook, and he worked for about 6 weeks, and I called him up on a job when he first went there. Well, first off, the customer called me and was like, "Your guy is sitting in the truck not doing anything." So I went and looked at who he was and where he was. So I went to see what was going on. I pull up. He's sitting in the truck. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "It don't work," and he started walking down the road. So employees are always fun. Biggest thing is finding employees that are willing, not so much that know how to do pressure washing. If they know I've done pressure wash, I don't want you to know how to pressure wash. I want you to know how to. If you're nice and friendly, and you're not grumpy and you're positive, and they're not negative, and I want them to be able to learn. I want to be able to that they can have an open mind and learn, because I don't want somebody that don't want to learn to the processes to make sure that you're successful.
Sure.
Any other questions?
So whenever you got that, when you got your buddy working for you, did you get off the truck completely and just focus on sales?
No, I never got off until I finally started hiring people all the way to be able to get off the truck all the way 100%. It takes time. It's not going to be something that you're going to just be able to get there and get there fast. It does take time. It does take making sure you have your processes down so that way you can teach them and make sure that they understand. Now, my course, I'm trying to really make sure that I set up all the processes so that if you follow it, you can make sure that if you hire somebody, they will follow the same processes. And that way, it will make sure you will be able to protect yourself to make sure that they're doing the right stuff. And when you hold yourself to a higher standard, they will, because an employee is never going to hold their self to the same standard you do, because they don't care. It's not their business. It's just a job to them. So if we've got to hold them to if we hold ourselves to a high standard, they're going to come about here. If we're like,
If
I
we're
don't
like,
really want to do all this, I don't want to do my 5 rounds, I don't want to do all this other stuff, then they're going to not do all that other stuff, and they're going to be about here. So when stuff starts falling off and the wheels start falling off of your buggy as it's going down the road, that's why that usually happens like that.
true.
So one thing I did see that I would like to see more in your marketing and stuff of that is pictures of you cleaning, pictures of your equipment, pictures of stuff like that, because that is what people want to see. People want to see in your Google My Business of you, because they don't, even if you're young and you think, well, I don't want them to know that I'm young. Who cares? A lot of people will know. I was reading a book, and I'm reading a book right now, and people that who you want to be customers, they don't care if you're young. If you're willing to hustle and make their life easier and stuff, they're going to hire you. And that is why we got to be able to do that. If you sit there and you don't want to work, then that's not going to do no good either. So make sure you're hustling, make sure you're putting pictures of you, pressure washing the house, do videos of that kind of stuff. And that is how, I always say marketing is not just cleaning the house, but marketing is during the whole house wash, that we're still marketing as we go, as so that way we can keep growing our business.
Sure. So did you use Instagram and Facebook and
I used Instagram, and if I was you, I would probably use maybe Instagram, because Instagram we can automatically put it over on Facebook, right? We can post it
yeah,
on Instagram and it automatically goes to Instagram or Facebook, and then I would probably really start working my LinkedIn. That is something that I would probably really work. Those are the two things I would probably work. Now, if you don't know one are very good, then I would start with one and learn it really well, and then move to the next one. Before I don't try to just start throwing everything out there, because then we're not good at anything. Now, I'm all about throwing mud on the wall to see what sticks and works, but we got to find something, obviously. But once we find that one thing that starts sticking to the wall, don't keep throwing mud everywhere else. We want to keep throwing that same mud because we know it's working, and grow the business. It's kind of like nailing a nail, and when we get halfway because we got good and it's going down, we quit hitting it. We want to keep driving that nail. If it's giving us money, we want to keep driving that nail as hard as we can to make sure that we keep getting those next jobs. We keep getting the marketing and stuff.
sure, sure. Did you seal most of the high ticket jobs yourself, or did the responsible do it for you?
Responsibility did a lot of it, and honestly, a reception can do a lot for you too. Give them a good script. A female can answer. A female usually can close a lot more than we can as a male, and the reason why it is because we think we want to know that they want to know all the systems. They don't care what systems you're using to clean this stuff. They have a problem. You have the solution. And that's all they want to know. Do you have the solution? They don't care what the solution is. They want the solution of, my husband won't go out here and clean it, and I need it cleaned, and I don't care how much it costs. A lot of times the reason why we have a hard time thinking that we can't charge that much is I would never pay that much. And that's they don't care. They have a problem, and that you are the solution, and that is what we got to do to be able to get that done. I'm just starting out, and this helped me. Thank you. See, I told you, Drew. Other people have these same questions that you have right now. So one thing I know we talked about was um, was the CRM, and so the thing about a CRM it's a great place that holds all our customer information, and this is important so that way we can get referrals, we can get you know later down in the road, we can, the best customers to get is a customer we've already had, because it doesn't cost us anything or very little to get it again. So we really want to be able to keep these customers coming, so that way we can do that. And how we do that is through a CRM. Now, we don't have to go crazy on paying a lot of money for a CRM, but we can pay anywhere from about 40 to 50 bucks a month will get us in the middle of the road CRM, enough to be able to start doing it. And then you say, well, which CRM do I want? Pick one, because there's all of them's got good pros and bads and that kind of stuff. The biggest thing I see people is people will never pick one, and that is a problem. So these are some things that you want to make sure that you're doing to grow it. So like House Call Pro, there's Jobbers has a lower end one. Jobber has a really high end one. There's all different kinds of customer factor, all different kinds. And again, this isn't one that I'm going to tell you to pick one that I love or any of them because I don't really like any of them. There's none. There's no really good CRM that will do everything you need it to do because this one might do good here, but this one doesn't do good over here.
Sure. So did you use a CRM on top? I mean, what CRM did you use on top of Responsibid?
So for the longest time, I used Responsibid and I used Responsibid and I used Google Calendar, and that was my CRM. It's not really a CRM, but that's what I used. Once I started hiring people and I needed to run trucks and stuff, I used Service Master, not Service Master, Service Monster. But it wasn't something that I fell in love with, and I loved it. You know, that wasn't one of those. But it did keep me being able to run 3 or 4 trucks at a time.
True. So did you use Responsibid when you were just starting out? And when you just started out, how long was it just you? Not very long.
I ran it for about 2 years before I started hiring people, so it was a little while. Yes.
And
Yep.
that worked good for you, Responsibid.
Yep. Because that way I can put people in there. It would automatically send them the bid. It would automatically send them the packages because obviously I want packages. The one thing I didn't use on Responsibid is letting them fill out all the information. Responsibid is very hard to get all the information on a phone because there's just a lot of information that's coming. And so I only use Responsibid. I would put all their information in Responsibid. And here's the thing too, because Al actually posted this. More employees equals more issues, and that is true. So it depends on what your long term game is. What is your goal? Is your goal to grow and scale and build it and sell it eventually, or is your goal to grow and just live happy and make $150,000 and doing all the work? Now, if you do that, then obviously you're taking a chance that if something happens to you or something like that. But on the other hand, if you want to be like somebody like shoot, I forget his name, who I had on here, that was 26 years old and grew his business to $1 million, then you can do that too. So the biggest thing is what do you want to? How far do you want to grow your business?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I want to do it as big as possible, as big as I can make it.
Gotcha. And so what so obviously your goal is 150,000 this year. What's your like 5 year goal?
5 year goal, like 1 million for sure.
Good. So what do we got to do to get there? Break it down, right? And so then them are some things that we got to do and figure out how to break it down. So like for this year, I would really, really focus on what I got to do to get to that 150,000.
True.
What are the things that is going to move the needle and figuring out what moves the needle. Does AdWords move the needle? Does Facebook ads move the needle? Does buying leads somewhere else move the needle? Does John Moore put, I'm 23 and I hit 245,000 in my first 8 months so far. So, what do I want to do to be able to do that? Not everybody's going to be able to do that. But what we can do is figuring out what moves the needle, and that is what is important.
To make good money like that, do you have to do residential and commercial, or can you make, $245,000 in just residential?
I know people that make just it in residential. I got a guy right here in Cincinnati does $400,000, or he did almost $500,000, $500,000 on residential only. He hates commercial. Does not do any commercial at all. I mean, he probably does less than $20,000 a year in commercial, and every bit of it
Mhm.
is residential.
Yeah.
Now, he's not charging no $80 an hour either, or $100 an hour. He's at the $300 house washes for his minimum.
Yeah.
So them are the important things to do.
Yeah. Most definitely.
All right. So, um, the biggest thing is we got to do is learn from our failures. I always ask the question, what have we failed in business and what we learned three things. That is something that we got to learn to do. Is what when we fail at something, we don't look at it as a failure and we quit. We learn how to figure it out and we learn how to move on and get to the next thing. We talked about a little bit before we got on here about doing your oil changes and stuff like that. This is some things that we got to do is to figure out, we got to figure it out. And once we figure it out and we go and we get there and then we can change it. If we fail at something, we don't quit. When we quit, that's no good. Failure is learning. Failure is something that's going to happen. You're going to screw stuff up. You're going to do different things, but learning is what you got to do. So what I will tell you, the other thing is don't ever stop learning. Don't think you know it all. The people that think they know it all don't, period. I don't know it all. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring things out because you know what? I know there's new things out. I know there's things that will help you get me to the next level that I don't have it all out. So that is a big thing. The next thing is self-limiting beliefs. These are things that is in the back of your mind saying you can't do this, you're not good enough, you didn't go to college, you didn't do what you need to do. And all of that is BS. And what I'm going to tell you to do to get out of that is try to find like-minded people. Try to start hanging around business owners. Try to find the people that are successful. And when you get around successful people, you will become successful. That is a guarantee. I know what's helped me more than anything is getting around successful people. Like my daughter is in soccer, and the coach was a CPA, very successful, worth multi millions of dollars. And every time I got a chance, I went around and just be around him because the way they think, the way that successful people think. He gets up at 4:30 every morning, even worth. I bet he's probably worth 20 to 30 million dollars. He still gets up at 4:30 every morning to go work and go hustle and do what he needs to do, and that is something that made me want to drive to be like him. He's 60 years old. He still works every day. You know why? Because he's not lazy. He knows that how to make money. And so these are some things that get around successful people and do what successful people do, and you will become successful, because this is something that we have to do to be able to grow our business and to get to the next level. Successful people don't charge nothing the cheap. They're usually expensive. They're usually high dollar. The people that are cheap and afraid to sell themselves for higher because they have self-limiting beliefs that they can't sell it or people wouldn't pay that are usually getting along, barely making it, and they look like crap. They don't look like nothing. The CPA, he dresses in a suit and tie every day, and he dresses the dress. When you're going out on these jobs, wear a nice polo shirt. I always had a polo shirt, even if I was washing. It was a polo shirt, had my logo. It was 100% polyester because that way it would keep it look nice. And I looked nice when I went and did these jobs. So these are some things that you got to do. But self-limiting beliefs can really knock us down. Make sure you're reading books. I would challenge you to start reading a book a month, 2 books a month. You can either buy them or you can listen to them. So I always listen to them. So I'm an auditorial learner, so I listen to things. I can't read a book and learn from it. So I listen. So start reading books, start figuring out. If you're struggling in sales, read books about sales, read books in sales and how to be better in sales. If you're struggling in marketing, start learning about marketing. This is a good way that we can start getting our mind ready to go. Because here's the thing, even if you go, you can do $100,000 in Seattle, no problem, if you push it hard enough and you get doing it. But you got to be able to do the work, and you can't. A lot of people want to think that we can just get there and not do anything. You can do $150,000 this year and by yourself and have nobody else working with you. That can be very possible. Now, it's not going to be possible at the $100 an hour range. We got to get up to the $300 an hour range. So we got to get into that mindset of getting up to the $300 mindset versus the. And I know a lot of times that's really hard when you come from making $10, $15 an hour, but you can do it. Even if you get to $60,000, $70,000, these are things that we got to do to be able to get to that. So I listen to Audible books. I listen to the Pumpkin Plan. The Pumpkin Plan is a great book to learn about and grow and learn about finding the pumpkins we want, finding the ones that pay the most, finding that niche thing that helps us grow that business to the next level. So self-limiting beliefs or disbelief doubts, and these two things can really set you back. The best way to overcome them is knock them right in the face. If I have a self-limiting doubt, start thinking of maybe read a book about how to get better. So another book that's a good book to read is Extreme Ownership, because when we talk about extreme ownership, it takes a lot of this limiting beliefs and knocks it right in the face, and that's what we got to do. So the one last thing is fear. Don't let fear hold you back. Fear can be good and fear can be bad. Fear can be good is to make sure you don't fall off the roof. Fear can be bad. It can hold you back because you think that you might fail. Guess what? I'm going to tell you something. You're probably going to fail. But when you fail, learn from your failures. Anybody that's been successful, no matter if it's been Trump, the person that Eisenhower, anybody that has been the people that made the airplane, how many times did they fail? The people that made the light bulbs, how many times did they fail? But they didn't stop when they failed. They kept pushing forward and they kept going through and making sure that you're getting to the next level. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. It makes sense. I like it.
And my goal is to make sure you're successful. And if you go out there and you start pushing it, you will get there. Jason put, I failed a couple times a day, and you will fail daily. Sometimes we get down on ourselves, we get beaten. Jason is one in my Voxer program, and he was getting on it about he's been losing jobs and can't get roof cleaning jobs. Well, and then he went and closed $1,100 house wash. That's what happens. We don't win them all. You're never going to win them all. That is a guarantee. If you're winning all your bids, you're too cheap and you need to raise your prices. Period.
Sure.
I don't care who you are. If you're closing 75%, raise your prices. If you get in that 50 to 60 range and be happy there. Raise your prices. I say it all the time. I'm not a $99 guy at all. I don't want nobody to be $99 guy because I want you to be successful. And the people that I know that are $99 guys, there isn't too many out there that are very successful. There's a few because we can go the quantity over quality, but not very many. All right. Any last questions for me before we jump off here?
For Google Ads, about how much each lead would you say? I know it's hard to say, but how much would you be paying for each customer?
So it depends on how much competition you have in your area. I think you got some competition. So, you got to think it's probably going to cost you. So normally it takes 3 clicks to get a bid, and you're going to pay anywhere from $10 to $15 per click. So you're looking about $50 to $75 per bid or per lead. That is what you're going to end up paying.
Okay.
So that's why we got to be at that $300 an hour, so that way we can keep that going.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love it when I fail because my failure is my strength. It's true. You learn from your failures. That's how I have grown my membership. That is how I built my membership. Is through my failures. My pressure wash and help membership was built through my failures. When I say in my either in person training or in my membership is I've done it. I've screwed it up. There's people. Can I use my J rod to change into my high pressure to low pressure? Yes, but I've had too many employees screw it up. So guess what? You got to walk your butt back to the truck to turn it off. Why? Because I didn't want my employees screwing it up. I didn't want me to screw it up. So there's a reason why everything that's in my membership is reasons why I do it. The reason how I wash, the reasons, the steps I go through, my check sheet of check. We're walking around that house 2 or 3 times in the end to make sure that it's right. And the reason why I do that for it is to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. So these are some things that I really, really want you to know. So if you want to join, you can go to pressurewashhelp.com/free, or you can go to King of Pressure Washing for dates for in-person. In-person is something that will help you. You get hands-on. You actually get it. So Drew, I really appreciate you coming on here. I've gotten several thanks. Judd is just starting his pressure washing business in Illinois. Thanks, guys. This really helped me. So this is some things that you do. Do you physically work 7 days a week, or do you take weekends off? So here's the thing. It's one thing to be hustling and grinding and all this crap, but I also 100% believe in a life balance work, family life balance work. Don't sit there and think that, if you want to work maybe a year crazy, but if you're working 2, 3 years, you need to raise your prices. You're too cheap. And that is it. I'm a big fan and I'm a big believer in, I'm a big fan and big believer in doing stuff for your kids. I don't want you to grow business and you don't have time freedom. I want you to have time freedom. And how do you have time freedom? Is by taking time off. You can't work every weekend. Nick Sick was on here a couple weeks ago, the firefighter, and he was working every weekend. Jason was working every weekend and killing themselves. And why? What's the purpose of it? You can't see your family. They're growing up and you don't even know who your family is. Make sure you spend time with your family. If you don't spend time with your family, that is not good. So make sure you are spending time with your family, whether it's during the week and we take a day off during the week or on the weekends. Make sure that we have that time for that. Otherwise, we can have issues. So, as Al Buck Chonky says, and I always say, you are not your customer. So, any last questions for me before we jump off here, Andrew?
I think that's it for now.
Awesome. Remember, you're never too young to start and you're never too old to start. I have a lot of young people on here. We got a lot of old people on here. You can always start and grow a business, and that is something that you can do to gain time freedom, to gain financial freedom, and everything like that. So definitely go check out pressurewashhelp.com/free to get 30 days free. I think I have one spot left for my in-person training on pressure washing. I do have a couple left on Christmas nights. But the thing that I know that's going to be pretty cool about this pressure washing class that I'm going to be having in Raleigh is I got some pretty high end people that will be there on Saturday that's taking the Christmas light class. So you know what I always say? Get around smart people and you become smart. I know at least there's going to be 3 people at that class on Saturday in marketing that's going to be pretty smart about this stuff and has been very well off for themselves. So I would highly suggest you jump in there. And like I said, I only got one left for pressure washing. So hope you all have a good night, and I'll see you Sunday. All right, let's see if I can get off here without losing you. If you do, just call me back real quick.